We know exactly who was getting information from the Russians. It was the Hillary Clinton campaign where they were getting information from the Russians, dirt on Trump to use in a campaign. That's the very thing that for a year and a half we've been trying to investigate on whether or not the Trump campaign was trying to get dirt against Hillary Clinton from the Russians. We have no evidence of that. We know that the Democrats were trying to get information from Russians to use against the Trump campaign.
House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, you just heard him telling our own Martha McCallum that the focus of this ongoing Russia investigation should actually be the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Marie Harr, former State Department spokesperson and Fox News analyst, and Amos Snead, former press secretary to House Republican Whip, now Senator Roy Blunt. Thanks to both of you for being here. Amos, what did you think of that? That the focus should actually be on the Democrats and Hillary's campaign?
I think if you look at what Congressman Nunes said, he said, we've talked about this for a while. We have known that Russia has been trying to interfere in our elections, in our democratic process. And if you look at this, I mean, they're trying to interact with Democrats to benefit Republicans, vice versa. But if you go back and look, I mean, this is something that Mitt Romney warned about during the many years ago during the presidential debate, and he was laughed off stage. So I think if we could take anything from this, it's that this is a real threat, and they're trying to interfere in our process with both Republicans and Democrats.
And you heard Nunes; he's really adamant about this, Marie, and he cited that anti-Trump dossier that was bankrolled in part by both groups, both the campaign and Democrats.
But Nunes is not telling the truth, Sandra. I'm sorry to say. There's one campaign who met with Russian officials, who offered to work with them to dig up dirt on their opponent, and who then lied about it to the FBI, which is why people are now under indictment or have pled guilty. That is the campaign of Donald Trump. So I know Devin Nunes is playing a political partisan game here. I think he sees that as his job. Amos is right, though. Russian interference in our election is a problem.
I'm sure Amos has a response to that,
Trump won't admit that. But Sandra, he's not preparing us for 2018 or 2020, and that is a national security threat.
Speaking of which, pardon me, I want to jump in here because we've got Republicans speaking at their weekly news conference right now. Paul Ryan is up. Let's listen.
Consequences or collateral damage. I'm sorry, we don't do the blurt out thing. Anna.
Mr. Speaker, what's your message to markets that fell on the news that Trump was going to announce tariffs and then rallied yesterday when you said through your spokeswoman that you're...
honestly, I'm not watching the gyrations of the market. What we're trying to do is make sure we have good economic policy. And just to repeat what I said, we think the smart approach, the best approach, and the president's right to point out that there are abuses. There clearly is dumping and transshipping of steel and aluminum. That's absolutely happening. There's a big overcapacity problem. Let's go focus on that. Let's go focus on the abusers of that. And that is why we think that the proper approach is a more surgical approach so that we do not have unintended consequences. That's what we've been encouraging the administration. The person who's running point on us is the Ways and Means Chairman, Kevin Brady. He's been working on some solutions with the administration. Those talks are ongoing, and I'm encouraged that hopefully we can get to a good place. Well, look, we think the economy is doing very well, and we want to make sure that every step we take helps the economy. We want to make sure that abusers are held to account, especially China when it comes to dumping and transshipping. But we also want to make sure that every step we take forward does not create any unintended consequences.
Is there any sense that you're making headway with the president on this?
Look, I'm not going to go into our private conversations. We've had multiple conversations about this. He knows our view. Every now and then, we're just going to have a different approach on how we should tackle these problems. But it should be acknowledged that there is a problem that needs to be addressed here. We just want to make sure that it's done in a prudent way that's more surgical so we can limit unintended consequences. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you've been listening to Speaker Paul Ryan there taking questions. Obviously, one of the big topics there was the economy, and that was following more questions about those proposed tariffs by the president. And members of his own party, Republicans, have been speaking out against that. Paul Ryan was one of them. I want to bring our panel back in. Amos and Marie are joining us. You listened to that, Amos. What did you make of Paul Ryan's comments there, pretty much saying what he's said all along? Trade wars are not good, despite what the president is saying.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think both of us would agree with what Speaker Ryan just said is the American economy is strong. The American economy is growing, and anything that Washington does, anything that the White House does, we first need to protect that growth. We're seeing this across the country. And I think what you're seeing today, the president tweets this out, makes a statement 2 days ago. Now you're seeing the Speaker of the House jump into action. You're actually seeing Republican leadership from Washington to continue this economic growth.
I mean, Republicans, many of them, Marie, have made their feelings about these proposed tariffs very clear. They don't like the idea of this and what this could eventually result in.
Absolutely. And you've heard incredibly strong statements from Republicans across the board, including Paul Ryan just now, about these tariffs and what a bad idea they are for our economy. You've also heard our allies be incredibly upset, whether it's the United Kingdom or the EU or the Canadians. These relationships matter. And there's a war going on inside this White House right now about these tariffs between Gary Cohn and Peter Navarro. We will see who comes out on top here. But there is basically no one in the mainstream Republican or Democratic Party or economic side who thinks these tariffs are a good idea.
Well, to be fair, there's many Republicans who say they want a level playing field, certainly, and you've heard that from Paul Ryan and others. But these tariffs, I think, surprised many, and Gary Cohn, to your point, chief economic advisor inside that White House, he fought adamantly against this. We'll see where it goes. Nothing in writing yet. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Got some more breaking news now. Benjamin Netanyahu